Welcome back. I am John P. Today, we are going to be discussing whether or not you should sell your watches now. Now, obviously, I'm a little bit biased in a way, right? I have Del Rey Watch with my business partner, Federico, from Federico Talks Watches, where we buy, sell, and trade watches. So, in a way, I would say, hey, sell us your watches. But at the same point, people can choose to do whatever, and I can share with you what I'm doing particularly with my collection and also give you examples about what other people are doing with their watch collections just to show what is going on in the watch collecting market. Now, I have received this question, it seems like, so much in the last three and a half, maybe 4 weeks, up to a month, from people on my Instagram, The Real John P., asking whether or not now is the right time to buy or sell a watch. And it kind of gets me thinking, right? It gets me thinking about things that I'm already thinking about, but from a different perspective as well, because not only do I buy, sell, and trade watches, I also collect, right? I have a watch collection. Oftentimes we get cool things in the door. I want to put it in my collection, and I do. And if I stop wearing it or I don't wear it, I do sell it. But much like everyone else out there, I'm also buying and selling watches for my collection and not just as my career. That's why I'm so fortunate and thankful for all of you out there for being with us throughout the last number of years. It's the best thing to be able to do every day what I love and enjoy. But once again, this is what I think about, and so many people are wondering because of things going on with, especially in the United States, with the interest rates, in the economy, in the markets, and everything going on with different crises in the world. It gets people to maybe do things that they wouldn't have otherwise, or maybe kind of pushes them to maybe either cut back or add watches to their collection with that fear of missing out. Now, I'll share both perspectives, and you can kind of decide whichever makes sense about whether or not you think it's time to sell your watches or buy your watches. Now, we can start with the sell your watches section of this discussion. The sell your watches, is it time to sell your watch? Well, I think for the person that added watches to their collection that they didn't like and it was speculating, I do see more people, dealers included, kind of thinning the herd, thinning out inventory that maybe they don't need to have, right? I do see other watch dealers loosening up and getting rid of some of their Rolex that they were sitting on, that they were so sure that the prices would continue to rise. Now, the prices are still going up on the Rolex watches, but the overall sentiment between dealers and a lot of collectors that have been speculating on watches like Rolex is maybe thinning the modern side of it, the modern Rolex, up a little bit and reducing some of the exposure just because of the uncertainty, right? The rising interest rates, the United States or the Federal Reserve rather, really pulling out currency, pulling out money from the economy using different methods and instruments to do so and reducing the monetary supply. Whether or not that happens, but that's what's being talked about. And so with less money floating around, there's less people probably trying to buy these things, which in theory could lower the prices of some of these watches, especially when we're considering that with production, Rolex is making more of these watches every day. So I think if there was some speculation on modern Rolex, and for the person that maybe loaded up on modern Rolex, and I know it's difficult to think about, and before I was in the industry, I didn't think it was that many people that did this, but we do see it because people offer us watches every day. There are people that are just sitting, not even as official dealers, just sitting on the sidelines with a lot of modern Rolex, kind of using it as speculation kind of vehicle. I would say that maybe reduce the exposure there. At least that's what I would do with a briefcase full of Hulk watches, for example. Reduce the exposure to a certain degree just out of that caution, because that is the sentiment that seems to be floating through the watch industry and other industries in general. Now, if you're the type of collector that isn't doing that and you love and enjoy your watches, I would say there's really no reason, unless you had a separate reason that I won't know, because this is only two-way to a certain extent, but leave it down in the comments below what you're doing. If you love your watches, there's really no reason to sell them, and that's something I preach on this channel. In a sense, something I talk about, that make sure to always buy the watches that you love and enjoy, because you can love and enjoy them, and it removes that component of having to follow the markets in terms of curating your watch collection. when you start introducing that monetary, that financial aspect, it turns it more into a business. And I can see sometimes this does remove enjoyment for some people. So if you don't need to sell the watches, I would say there's really no reason to if you wear your watches, love and enjoy them. But if you're speculating, maybe reduce exposure. That's kind of the chatter out there. Now, we can look at the other end of it, right? Is this a great time to buy watches? Well, I sell watches, so I would say, sure, why not? But I would say, aside from that, right, if you do see something that you love and enjoy, and you're going to love and enjoy it, wear it. But what I see other people doing as well is there seems to be a certain level of, they call it FOMO, but it's a fear of missing out. Now, I don't know how long this is going to last, and this is something I think about while I'm trying to fall asleep, is this fear of missing out trend that's happening. And I talk with so many watch collectors. I don't typically handle sales at Delray Watch, but I've been picking up the phone a lot just to talk with so many of you and just see what's going on, just hear the chatter from other collectors that are in different parts of the world. And there's a fear of missing out trend that's going on where people seem to be buying watches at rates higher than ever, and the inventory is being reduced, even for watches that are no longer being produced. And if you really want a watch and you were sitting on the sidelines and you thought, hey, this particular reference I could buy anytime, whatever the brand may be, let's say, some type of Elaine Silverstein or a Gerard Perregaux Laureato or something that's no longer produced in a certain way, and you want that watch, well, now there's almost a bit of a competition for who's going to put it in their collection. Otherwise, there's a fear of it not being on the market and you won't have that watch. So whether or not I think it's right, personally, I've also missed out on some very interesting watch buying opportunities for my personal collection just because someone else got to it before, right? I will even, sometimes if there's a watch we don't get in the door at Delray Watch, I'll even buy a watch on eBay or Chrono24 or one of the other locations just because, hey, it's the only place you can buy it. And if it's for my personal collection, totally fine. But I've even missed out on some of these watches because there's this fear of missing out trend that's kind of going out through the watch collecting community. We also have to consider that watch collecting is becoming more popular every day. Pop culture, you see it in the news, you see it in the media, you see it on places like YouTube. Celebrities are getting into watch collecting at paces never thought imaginable by myself. Watch collecting is becoming a big deal. I really think that we're at the beginning of where watch collecting will be 10 years from now, where it will be so common to see fellow watch collectors and enthusiasts just based on the demand and the surge of demand we're seeing here today. So should you buy a watch right now? Is it a great time? I think if you are on the sidelines and you see that particular reference you're looking for, maybe drying up, I would probably put it in your collection if it's going to be a watch that you're going to wear, love, and enjoy. But in terms of speculation or investing, it really does seem like a bit of a gamble when there are a lot of conflicting signs or things occurring in the world, including in the different financial markets that maybe don't make sense and are confusing or not behaving rationally as historically people that studied these things would have considered. So in summation, is it a great time to sell a watch for those people that I think were speculating or sitting on massive collections? It might be a great time, especially if you can realize a gain. If you looked at it from that perspective, if you love and enjoy the watch, really no reason to sell it unless you had one. And it's a great time to buy a watch. Time can really only tell. But if you do, or you're after a particular watch that's kind of drying up or maybe not going to be available, not current production, I would say there is this fear of missing out trend happening. So if you really want that watch because you want to wear it, probably a great time. Otherwise, the decision does come down to you at the end of the day. But I want to hear, what do you all think? Are any of you out there kind of thinning your collection, or are you doing the opposite? I see it going both ways. It's very polarizing, and I just love hearing and seeing it in the comments below, because that's also how I share things with you, as well as run the business delraywatch.com, adapted for you and what you'd like to see in the way that you'd like to behave out there in the watch collecting community. Guys, let me know, comments below. Please do not forget to check out my Instagram, The Real John P, and we'll see you next time. You've been chatting with John P.